Before we begin, welcome back to the show. Now, I'm on a mission to spread these conversations to as many people as I can. If you could do me the small favor of clicking the follow button on Spotify or clicking subscribe on YouTube, it does make a massive difference in helping me bring on bigger guests who provide even more value. So thank you and enjoy the episode. Sian Gregson, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So take me through your journey into health and fitness. Where does it all start?
That is a huge question. I think my journey of health and fitness started from a very, very young age. Weirdly enough, I've just been home visiting my family, and Mum told me a story actually about when I was younger, and when I was probably about 10, I would be at the pools with my friends, with my sister, with my family and stuff, and she would always notice me like holding my belly and being really self-conscious and insecure. So I think throughout my entire life, I've had this subconscious like feeling of not being good enough in my body, and that's just stemmed and grown and grown. And then, heading into high school and going to an all-girls school, it was definitely heightened, and that's when I found myself feeling quite insecure in my body, doing everything I can to learn how to improve myself and my physique in line with what I thought other people wanted me to be. And then, moving onwards and upwards, I started getting into my studies and everything and just went from there.
Where do you think that initial trigger around your body begins? Like, I know this is such a common experience for women to have, or girls when they're growing up, but do you know where the source of this self-judgment comes from? Maybe in your life, but generally for young girls?
I think overall it just comes from the media we're exposed to from such a young age. Even like, obviously I was 10 years old, so it's not like I'm on TikTok or Instagram, but I think even just like the Disney princesses you watch growing up, everything is like this idolized, perfect physique. And it's like, I would look at myself and be like, why don't I have that at the age of 10? So I think it's quite harming. And even if we don't necessarily recognize it ourselves, it's happening from a very, very young age.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of guys do that, but they do that with like professional athletes, right? In Australia, like they do it with, I know I did it with AFL players. You put them on this pedestal and then you're constantly comparing yourself.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is a lot of this is so like subconscious, right? Like you're getting the feedback through your emotions, but we're so young, unaware, but it starts to control our life even at such a young age, and we start falling into these patterns that we don't even realize. So what sort of patterns started to play out in your life as a result of some of these early self-judgments around your body?
For me, I would be over-analyzing food. Like that was a huge thing for me, and I would kind of never be able to just sit down and be present with a meal. I would always be looking at what the girl next to me was eating, and if I was having a bit too much, it was like, oh, okay, like I'm having too much, instead of just focusing on my body and what my body needed and being present in that moment. So that's where it all began for me. The food noise was a big part of that. I literally remember coming home from school and like wanting to make chocolate brownies with my sister, and I would eat one and then I would run laps around the house because I thought, oh no, I can't have this brownie just as a young kid.
But that noise, you start to become desensitized to the noise and start to think, well, that's just the way it is. That's just the operating system of my mind. Like there is noise, and you get so used to just having this like static in the back of your head. How did you become aware that that isn't something that we should have to experience and we should have freedom? What are some of these big breakthrough moments where you decided like, enough's enough. I don't want to live with this constant torment that I'm putting myself through?
Yeah, I think a big thing, it has been so normalized, and that's very true. Like I went through a solid 2 years of my life where I was very, very strict and very hard on myself, and I thought it was normal and that's how it should be. And I would stop myself from going out with friends, family. I would stop myself from eating things that I actually enjoyed. I would convince myself that I enjoyed like plain things like just rice and things like that without anything else. And it got to a point where I was super isolated. I wasn't doing things that I loved. I wasn't finding joy in my fitness anymore. I love food. Like it's one of my favorite things ever. And I wasn't even finding joy in that anymore. And I would start making meals and not eating them because I liked the creative aspect and I liked cooking and everything, but I wouldn't even enjoy it for myself. I would give it to family, I'd give it to friends. And then I started to recognize that I had just kind of created this hole for myself, and it was reflecting everything in my life now. Like, I wasn't fun anymore. I wasn't social. I wasn't going out. I wasn't saying yes to random trips or random nights out because I was scared and I wasn't sure what food was going to be there. So it had a huge impact on my family, my friends, my relationship with myself. And that's when I started to go, okay, this is not okay. This isn't normal. And I started consciously shifting my mindset and the way I thought about food and viewed food. And I decided, okay, what's my priority? Is it having a life that I'm happy with and I can have friends and I can have good conversations and have the energy to show up for? Or is it being in this like rigid routine and structure, which is really, really hard to break free from?
I find that we write these like unwritten contracts around, you know, if I go through this series of choices around food, it's going to bring me like happiness and it's going to make me successful. It's going to make me feel good in myself. But we sacrifice all of those things to get that.
Yeah.
Right. We want to feel the freedom to love ourselves, but we sacrifice the love that we have for ourselves to obtain this. So I find it very difficult. There's like this dance that we go through on between sacrifice, but I think a lot of it comes down to not understanding this concept of sustainability and balance. And I think a lot of people put these pressures onto themselves without realizing it. Something I want to ask you about is, how do you find that balance between eating healthy but not restricting yourself and having the confidence in yourself to go out in these situations? Because I think it is like a bit of a dance, and I think people don't have the trust in themselves to be sustainable across a long period of time. Do you know what I mean? It's quite difficult to find balance or be sustainable with our health and fitness because we're very extreme creatures. So take me through your journey to learn how to be sustainable with the habits that you have in your life.
Yeah, I think it's funny. This is one of those things where it comes down to showing up as the person and knowing that you are that person that's going to get back on track the next day and have that consistency piece in your life. If there's one thing that I'm sure of, is that I'm a very, very consistent person. And I know that if I go out tonight and have a big pasta and drinks or whatever with my friends, I know my lifestyle and my habits, and I know that I'm going to get back on track tomorrow and it's not going to hinder any of my progress. But if you're the type of person that can't trust yourself in the first place to be able to get back on track, that's where the work needs to be done. Building that inner internal trust in yourself and that consistency that you are going to show up and be good the next day, or good, define good. But it's like, if you can't control, if you don't have that control within yourself, then that's the issue. It's not the food. It's not the workout routine. It's not your nutrition. Like, that was the biggest thing I recognized when I had this rigid process in my life of how I approached my fitness and how I saw myself. It was like I finally got my dream physique and I had like this perfect workout plan. I had the perfect nutrition plan. I knew exactly what macros I should be hitting to look a certain way, but I was so unhappy and lonely when I got there. So it's like, why did I do this? And that's when I recognized that the shift needed to be made. And I knew that I had the willpower to get back on track because I like feeling good in myself. I like feeling confident. I like looking a certain way. So I know that if I go out and have a night out with my friends and I enjoy myself, I go on a holiday, I don't know when I'm going to be able to train next, I know that after that 2-week holiday, I'll be fine. I'll get back on track as soon as I'm home because that's a priority for me and I trust myself to show up.
Something within that though, I feel like what happens is people who go through long periods of following such a strict routine subconsciously are proving to themselves that they can trust themselves, which allows them, when they find more balance into their life, that they know the undercurrent is trust because they've proven to themselves they can do it. How can someone start at a point where they don't have to go through long periods of extreme dieting to reach that place of self-trust without this, I guess, a catalogue of proof that, you know, they've done these extreme things and they can trust themselves?
Yeah, that is a really hard thing to kind of navigate through, and which is why whenever I work with someone new, I'm big on saying like, okay, we can obviously give you your perfect calories, your macros, your fitness plan, But if that's not something that you enjoy and not something that you feel like you can do sustainably throughout your life, then it's not worth it. So that's why I like to bring nutrition and fitness and everything back to basics and creating habits that you can always come back to. It's not just like, okay, we've done like an 8-week challenge, a 12-week challenge or whatever, and then you fall back into your old habits. It's like you understand how to build a healthy plate full of real whole foods that are nourishing and filling, and they're not going to create further cravings for you. You understand the basics, the foundations, and that's sustainable for you. It's something that you enjoy. It's not something that's going to make you feel rigid or scared to do or feel like you're going to be trapped in as well.
I also think people fall into this trap of eating healthy is a punishment. And that's probably one of the biggest social narratives that is wrong. It's like eating like takeaway foods is like this reward for like being good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
it's like I'm going to treat myself to like Macca's. I'm going to treat myself to whatever. It's like you're going to feel crappy after that.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we frame the foods as like a sacrifice to our lives for some reason. And I think that traps people in the boxes as well, because they start convincing themselves that eating healthy is a punishment.
Yeah. It's like when you achieve something, the go-to is like, oh, let's go out tonight. Let's have drinks tonight. Let's celebrate with my favorite cheat meal or whatever it is. I kind of wired myself to be the opposite, I guess, in that like what's actually going to make me feel good is if I stay home and cook a beautiful, nourishing meal that I know is going to make me feel good afterwards. But you're right. There's this stigma in society that you have to reward yourself, or you can reward yourself with a cheat meal, or if you do something great, you then reward it with that cheat meal. But what's going to make you feel good at the end of the day?
That's the thing. I think the phrasing of like cheat meal as well, it's like they're making themselves feel guilty so that later on they can compensate their behaviors in a positive direction. But sometimes it is convenient. You're going out and you want to be able to enjoy this meal.
Yeah.
Because you've classified it as a cheat meal in your mind and you create these like strict right and wrong foods, then you feel like you feel guilty, so you get stuck in this loop, and then now you're hating on yourself, and then you overcorrect, and then you start torturing yourself, and now you're like, oh, I have to go extreme, and just because of the way that you've pre-framed the food going in.
Yeah, I think food labels are a really tough one, and I think if you're going to go into anything with that good, bad idea, like, okay, this is a good food, this is a bad food, that's a big mistake people make in the first place. And having these labels around anything, like even I talk about hunger, people like to just say, okay, I'm hungry, but what does that actually mean? Like, do you have that pit in your stomach where you're really hungry, or are you able to stop and recognize, like, no, maybe I'm just bored, maybe I'm just craving something? There's a difference between all of those things. And if you can't decipher what it is that you're feeling right now, you're just going to call it hungry when maybe you're just bored.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have also demonized their signals, right? Like the body and the mind is such a well-tuned system that when we're getting these homeostatic mechanisms sending like a signal to us, like to eat food, we start like demonizing, like, oh, I've got this craving and I've got to like quieten it. It's like, can we accurately understand where that's coming from as well? Because sometimes it is from a place of boredom and stress, and we've actually just eaten a meal, but now we want to soothe the stress we're feeling. But sometimes we are under eating and maybe we're not eating the right foods. And I think there's this jungle of connections between the signals that we receive and what we interpret them as, and we haven't really done the work to correctly link the signals we get and the aligned action that will help us in our lives.
Yeah. And that's what I'm really big on, your relationship with self and understanding your body. Like, everyone is different. So me sitting down with someone and saying, okay, are you hungry? Are you emotional? Are you tired? Are you just craving something? It's going to be different for every single person. And that's why you need to really get in tune with your body, your lifestyle, and yourself. And this is why I'm big on journaling as well, because that writing piece gives you an opportunity to step out of your body for a second and just reflect on what's going on. It's like, okay, what's happening in my life right now that's maybe making me feel like I'm a little bit more hungry, there's a lot more going on, hungry, or maybe I am more emotional. Maybe there is a stressful time in my life right now that's making me seek comfort in food. And that's why your internal world, that relationship you have with yourself, is so important on any health and well-being journey. And it's like the missing piece of the puzzle for so many people, because they just hyper focus on this fitness perfect, nutrition perfect, instead of working on themselves.
Do you think people realize how much their relationship to themselves and the stresses they have in their life affect their relationship to food?
No, I don't think people realize it all, because I think people also lean on it subconsciously. It is a comfort. Like it's the best feeling getting into bed with like your ice cream or whatever. And it's an immediate like release of, I feel better. Instead of doing the work, you're avoiding the real work that needs to be done, because that work is hard. Understanding what you're actually going through that's causing you to feel like you need to lean on something else. People don't like to face that discomfort. And unfortunately, that is what needs to be done in order to heal your relationship with food and to be able to build these sustainable, healthy life habits.
So what is your opinion on this self-acceptance piece? Like, how would you refer or teach people about self-acceptance and what that is? Because it ties into like discipline and self-awareness. And I think there's a lot of misunderstandings about how to use these things to align your life.
Yeah. I think it's really hard, because the self-worth piece and the self-acceptance is the biggest, most important piece of any puzzle, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationships. If you're not able to have a strong sense of self-worth, then all of the rest will crumble, I believe. And it's the piece that everyone avoids because it's hard to face. It's hard to unpack what's gone on in your life, in your childhood, in your past, in why you react in certain ways. But I believe that if anyone wants to actually become the best version of themselves, they need to be able to take a step back and face the ugly in order to move forward. And that is something that I've taken a really long time to do. And I did isolate myself, and it was hard. And I did go through a time where I didn't like who I was. And I was living my life in a way where I was pleasing other people instead of understanding what it was that I truly wanted, what it was that I truly needed, instead of showing up in all areas, my career, my fitness, my health, in a way that I thought other people would accept me for. Because it's so easy when we're living in this world of like growing up, you're imposed straight away what your parents believe, what your family, your friends, your school, your university, whatever it is. All these ideas are plotted into your head, and you're like, oh, that's what I should be doing. That's what I should be doing. And again, that's why I like to come back to my journaling, because it's like, okay, what do I want to be doing? Is that even really who I am? Is, eating like this how I want to be living the rest of my life? Like, I became hyper focused on like all the protein bars and all this, like, to hit my macros perfectly. And I was feeling ill as a result. Like, it was making me bloated. I was uncomfortable. It really fucked with my gut, excuse my French. But I thought that was the way, because I was hitting my macros perfectly and it was great and it was aligning with what social media was telling me to do. Even like these fake away meals and all that sort of stuff that you see, it's like, oh, this low calorie burger option you can do. I'm like, oh, great. But that's not what I wanted, and that's not what I needed, and I wasn't listening to what I wanted to be. And that's what I've lent into now. And I think despite being in the health fitness industry, my biggest passion and my biggest goal is to help people find themselves and to focus on that, because in that you will become your healthiest and happiest version.
Exactly. I think that's a byproduct. I think we're focused on this goal of optimizing our health and fitness, but I think that's a default.
Yeah.
If we've worked on ourselves and we love and appreciate ourselves, I think these positive behaviors become an automatic, right? So how do you find the space to find your truth? I think a lot of people struggle because they're constantly being infused with other people's beliefs and opinions on their phone. How did you find the space to find your truth?
It wasn't easy. It was very hard. I had to step away from everything I was used to. Like, I spent like graduating school, coming out of that, I was partying every weekend. I was going out, stock standard. Like, any of my friends from back in those days would see me now and be like, what happened? I loved it. I loved going out because I loved the approval of others. So I would drink lots. I would do all the things to make people laugh and have fun and go out, and I seeked that approval, and I loved getting it. And I got to a point in my life where I was exhausted because I was putting on a facade. It wasn't who I was authentically. So I did have to step away and start saying no to things. And saying no is hard. And I think the more you're able to say no, the more robust your no becomes. And people have respect for that. People have respect for things that they're valuable. They're in demand almost. And people are like, oh, okay, she's on her own path now. And one of the big pivotal moments for me was going on a retreat in Bali. And I did it not knowing anyone there. There was 2 other Australian people on the retreat. So it was people from all around the world. And that really pushed me outside of my comfort zone and made me realize I don't even know who I am. I don't know what my values are. I don't know. I thought I did. I thought, okay, I value a good education. I value getting a secure job. I value having friends. But I didn't actually enjoy my job. The security thing was just what had been engraved into me from my parents. And my friends didn't really do what I enjoyed doing. You know, we were out drinking together every weekend, and that's not who I was authentically. So that was a big wake-up call for me. And coming back from that and stepping away and kind of moving into my own lane was really hard and really confronting. But it's been the best thing that has ever happened to me, in that doing that internal work and figuring out who I am and being able to sit down and be, okay, what are my values? And am I acting in a way that aligns with that? Like, someone can sit down and be like, yep, I really value family. But every time they have a spare 2 hours in their day, they're working on their business or they're playing PlayStation. It's like, okay, you need to check yourself out then.
I think
it's okay. Like, it's okay if business is your number one value, but don't speak into existence that family is or something else is, and really aligning yourself with that, because that's what builds the confidence as well. And that's what builds the confidence in everything in life. It's like, I'm showing up as the person I say I am, and I'm doing the things I said I'm going to do.
I think your life demonstrates what you value, but a lot of people have injected the beliefs of other people. But what happens is our life demonstrates what we value, but we get so much feedback mechanisms, right? We get the mental health struggles, and we start saying, I have a problem, but we don't look at the fact that our life is not aligned at all to what we deeply yearn for.
Yeah.
And I think when we're in alignment, right, like, we have the stability inside our internal environment. Like, we feel like a life is flowing. We feel like we're on this authentic path.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people think that what they value are these things that have been told to them by their parents, society. And when they get the feedback mechanism, they double down. They go even harder. They try and save even more money.
Yeah.
They try and do more of what they've been told to do.
Yeah.
How do you work someone through that process where they start to have this self-awareness around, I don't feel good in myself, I don't know where to go? It's easy to hop back onto the accelerator and push down the same path. But how do you go into your own lane and find your truth when there isn't many people around there? Because your truth can be such an isolating journey as well.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit cliche, but it is a matter of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like, for me, that security path was huge in my family. Like, both of my parents kind of the most encouraging, beautiful people in the world, but they did enforce this, like, let's go to university, let's get a job, let's, like, save and get a house, all that sort of stuff, the standard. But I found myself doing that and seeking the security, and I still wasn't happy, and I wasn't fulfilled, and I wasn't in alignment with my values. So when I kind of took the time to take a seat back and be like, okay, like, what am I? Who am I? What do I want to be? What is that value for me? Am I happy in the path that I'm heading in right now? Like, yes, it makes me feel safe. I know I'll be fine. It's good. But am I going to look back when I'm 50 and be like, yeah, I'm really glad that I went and worked that job in a hospital or something like that? Probably not. It would give me that security, that safety, yes. But is that what I'm seeking? No. When I sit down with myself, like, in reality, when I took that adventure, that leap to go and do something else, do something different for myself, that's when I was, like, lit up. And I think it's hard to navigate what your values are. And one of my favorite questions that I always come back to is, like, what decisions in my life am I most proud of? And what decisions in my life did I feel really, like, mad at myself, or what mistakes have I made that made me go, oh, and that is because you've gone against your values. So if you've done some wrong by someone, you've lied to someone, and that makes you have that pit in your stomach, like that's the one thing you think about, it's because you've gone against that value of trust and honesty. And for me, going down the path of security and working a 9 to 5, for example, it made me feel a little bit ill internally, and that's hard to admit because it's like, why? Like, this is normal. Everyone does this. I should feel good and proud of myself, like I'm graduating or whatever it is. But it didn't feel right for me. And so it was like biting that bullet, taking the leap, being a little bit uncomfortable and not running from that feeling, just trusting that intuition, that gut feeling of this is not what I want for my life. And I was okay with failing because regardless of what happened, I was going to learn something, and I could always come back to this safety and security. And I think that's like a very big blessing that we have in Australia that a lot of people take for granted as to how lucky we are and how good we have it. And if you're not taking that opportunity to step out of your comfort zone and take a little risk, it's almost selfish in my opinion.
I find we have such a pressure to accept who we are. And I think unintentionally it reinforces living out of alignment, right? Like it's like, list the things you're grateful for, but at the core, we're living our life, we're working a job we hate. We don't understand like why we're even dating this person. We don't, you know what I mean? Like our life is, the environment of our life is set up in a way which fundamentally is out of alignment with what we truly yearn for. Yeah. But we're trying to convince ourselves to love what we have. Like there's almost this moral injunction of love, like be grateful for your life. And we're almost like, I feel like sometimes we're trying to force ourselves to appreciate the life we have. And I feel like there's real tension between appreciating what we have, but being on this search and this journey for more and understanding what truly calls us in this world. How have you found that journey of like, we have so much, but sometimes our life is built upon foundations that aren't authentic to us. And how do we find that balance between loving what we do have in our life, but making sure that it is built on the roots that it comes from are in soil that we've actually set for ourselves?
Yeah, I think the word gratitude is kind of overused in that sense as well. Like it can be kind of an ugly word where if you're not like people like, you should be grateful that you have this, you should be grateful. I probably even just said it then, like you should be grateful for the life you have. And I think there's a difference between being genuinely grateful for what you have and just feeling like obligated to feel grateful. And I think that conjunction is very hard to deal with, deciding to take that leap of faith and go against what the normal is. But that's your decision to make. Like we all have that power that, you know, it's within us. I'll never forget the day I decided I was going to move to Bali. I literally went on my lunch break at work and I booked my flights and came back down. Everyone was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And that's hard to do. Like that's a scary thing to do. But the only way you're going to grow and find what that authentic self is by doing random scary things, getting outside of your comfort zone and just trying. But if you're going to spend your entire life not even giving it a chance, not even trying, just wondering, what if, you're never going to know. And I would way rather fail and fall over a million times than be unsure of that what my potential is.
And that's why I love the impulsive decisions, right? Like
I love them. They're always the best
sometimes
ones.
I think that gets demonized, right? It's like think it through. It's like sometimes what happens is when we think it through, we start injecting the beliefs of other people and our default system. Sometimes we have this deep yearning and our soul is almost calling forward and it just pushes us into action. Yeah. Just when I booked the Melbourne trip the other day, like that was so out of the blue. And I was like, I have to act on this. I have to act on this, right? Because you know that sometimes when you have a moment of stillness, you're constantly trying to correct yourself back to the path that you put yourself on. But we have our own path, I think, and I think our feedback system is constantly trying to get us there, but we have all these barricades up on our path, right? Yeah. And we have all these signposts that are saying, get back on the path, get back on the path. And our sort of GPS is sort of constantly trying to get us back to our path, but we keep saying, no, this is the right way. But we're like, wait, I swear it's that way.
Yeah. You got to be a little bit of a rebel, 100%. Like I'm the same in that I remember when I decided I wanted to host a retreat in Bali, I had no experience in that. I had no idea what I was going to do, what it was going to look like, but I just had the idea, and I didn't know if anyone would even want to join. And I posted it on my story one day just being like, "Oh, let's just see what happens." And it booked out within 2 days. And I was like, "Oh shit, like I'm actually doing this now. Like people are paying me." And that was so scary, and that to this day is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it was just like an impulsive, quick, it was true to me. I had a calling, I listened to it, and I took action. So many people don't take action when they get that feeling that, oh, and I'm not saying like everyone, let's go quit our jobs and move to Bali, but like listen to yourself. Don't ignore the fact that you're unhappy in what you're doing right now. If you are unhappy, that is okay. And I think you should be real with yourself about it and reflect and make a decision to improve your life instead of just accepting that that's how it is.
I think this self-awareness piece is so fascinating because I think more people are more aware than they realize, but they're constantly trying to like turn the dial down of their self-awareness because the louder that self-awareness gets, they start to feel the tangible effects of that. I'll take you through this little essay on self-awareness and self-acceptance because I think it ties in here to our conversation. Self-awareness and self-acceptance can feel like enemies at first. Self-awareness shines a light on your autopilot thoughts, the judgments, the comparisons, the voices telling you you're not enough. It's uncomfortable, even harsh, because suddenly you see all the ways you've been critical of yourself. But this awareness is exactly what makes self-acceptance possible. You can't embrace yourself without knowing yourself. You need to see the patterns, the old stories, the triggers, the raw material of who you are. Here's the paradox. The more aware you become, the further away acceptance can feel. Seeing how much you judge yourself can make self-love seem impossible. Yet this is where the dance begins. Self-acceptance isn't ignoring the flaws. It's sitting with them, understanding them, and offering compassion anyway. Self-awareness and self-acceptance aren't enemies. They're teachers. Awareness shows you the truth of your mind. Acceptance shows you how to meet it with grace. Together, they let you stop fighting yourself and start learning to love yourself fully and imperfectly. And I find that what happens is we're trying to turn the dial down of self-awareness because we don't want to sit with the discomfort of our truth. But I think that is the only pathway to truly accepting who we are.
Yeah, I love that. And I love hearing about your triggers and your failures and all these sorts of things because I believe that they're our biggest teachers. Like if you look back in your life and you think about a really hard time that you went through, you got out of it and you proved to yourself that you could. And you learnt so much from it and you grew so much from it. If we never went through any hardships or we never faced the things that triggered us or the things that make us feel a little bit like, oh, I don't know, you're never going to reach that next level version of yourself. And I think that's success to me. Like everyone has their own definition of success. But for me, it's like continuously proving to myself that I can overcome things that I thought I was never going to be able to do. Even just sitting here doing a podcast, having a conversation with a random person is something that I've worked really hard on getting myself to a place where I feel confident to do something like that. And that might be a minuscule, small task for someone else. But for someone like me, I'm like 18-year-old, 20-year-old Sian is looking at this being like, oh my God, who is that woman in that, like doing these things? And that's my goal, is to continuously every day, not even every year, every week, every day I want to be proving myself wrong and proving that I can overcome and do things that once upon a time I thought was impossible.
Yeah, I love that. And I think what happens is we see a lot of these people that we look up to and we almost put ourselves in a pit and we go, I could never be like them. Because the distance between who we are and who we strive to be like is so far apart that the comfort of an easy decision today wins every time. And we don't have that trust in ourselves to endure the discomfort of every single day. That's why I think if we have these strong habits in our life that push us out of our comfort zone, even slightly, the accumulation and the exponential growth that has over 1, 2, 5, 10 years is massive. But I think what happens is our lives are set up in a way that is predictable, stable, and we don't have an operating system that knows how to work through challenges. And that's why the people that we look up to feel so far away. It's because, well, it is a long way in the sense of it's taken them a long bloody time to do,
Yeah.
but it does only start small.
Start so small, and you never kind of know what the little thing is going to be. So you kind of just have to continuously put yourself out there until you, like, your brain clicks. And I hosted a journaling circle in Perth here a few weeks ago, and a bunch of girls I hadn't met before, and they all came. And one of the biggest things, like, I had a few of them come up to me and be like, oh yeah, like, I had a quick look at your Instagram. It looks like you just lived the dream. Like, you have this perfect life. And I was kind of annoyed at myself that I've depicted that, and I want to work on being a lot more vulnerable and open with people, because, to be honest, yeah, I am living my dream life now, and I am super confident and proud of who I am. I love the work I'm doing. I love the way my life's heading and what I've created for myself, but it has not always been that way, and it's taken a lot for me to find that confidence in myself to be able to do these things. And it was taking little leaps, like going to a journaling circle full of random people I don't know, having conversations, hearing where other people came from, and realizing that could be me, because that's all it takes, is hearing someone's little story and resonating with it, and realizing, wow, that's that young, shy, self-conscious, insecure girl is now running a business, living in Bali, inspiring people, coming on podcasts. If she can do it, I can do it. And I started surrounding myself with more people like that, and listening to more podcasts and learning from people who I aspired to be like. And I'm just relentlessly on that path continuously until the day I die. And I know, only being 24, I already know that I'm going to be able to look back and be so proud of myself.
And that's where I think, right, when the person came up to you and sort of said you're living the dream, I think a lot of what we don't realize is we're almost craving a one-sided experience where it's all support. Our life is all this fantasy of everything working well, right? Where life has support and challenge. It's two-sided. You're constantly going to have things you love about your life, and there's constantly things going to be challenging you, even if you have, quote unquote, this dream life, right? And you're living in a way that is aligned to you. That's inherently the nature of life. It's two-sided. But what happens when we're building a life from rocky foundations, from a void? We're going to seek a one-sided experience.
Yeah.
And what happens is that's going to limit us, because we're not going to be able to endure both sides. When we start to realize these challenges are serving our mission, they're serving an evolution of us, we can start to actually, when we're going through them, we can have the comfort in knowing that they're helping us grow. And the more challenges you go through like that, the more you can go back to this catalog in your brain and go, well, all of these experiences I went through have helped me get here.
Yeah.
So if I'm going through this, it's only going to help me evolve into a better version of myself as well.
Yeah. No, I know. It's weird. I've kind of trained my brain in a way now that I was going through a really rough time a few weeks ago, and it made me excited. I was in it, but I was like, God, like, something good is going to come from this. Like, I'm going to learn something from this. I'm going to grow from this. Like, this is really hard right now, but I know I'm going to get through it, and there's going to be a huge lesson that comes out of it. So I think being able to, easier said than done, but being able to at least have that awareness to be able to reframe when things are hard, that something good can come from it, and you can and will grow from it if you let yourself. But if you allow it to just be in a slump, or this is hard, my life sucks, it becomes a lot harder to see the lesson in things.
There's so much peace that comes from that. But I think the rewiring of your mindset like that does take a bit of work. But once you're there, like, it stabilizes you, and it becomes the default that you live your life through.
Yeah.
Yeah. A quote I do love that ties into this self-judgment piece is, you can't hate yourself in a version of yourself you can love. And I think a lot of people's self-development journeys are based upon self-awareness that is so negative. But like we said, we have the positive behaviors, right? Like, we're tracking our food. We might look a certain way. We might be pursuing goals that are authentic to us. But the static in the background is hate. It's self-judgments. It's, you should do this. You have to be like this. And I don't think the foundation is from a place of love. And you can't hate yourself into loving yourself. And I think a lot of us are so focused on nailing these behaviors right, like mastering them, this element of self-mastery, instead of taking a step back, a more panoramic view, and going, what is the pattern in my life, and why do I fall into these behaviors? Like, where are these emotions coming from?
Yeah.
And I think that's the work.
Yeah. Well, we're so heavily influenced by everyone around us. So, like, if someone's idea of success is this perfect body on this perfect physique, and that's what you're striving towards because you want to be able to impress or appease that ideal of success, but it's not yours and it's not true to you. Like, a lot of the people I work with, when I ask, like, what's your goal with this? Why are you here? I just want to feel good. I just want to feel confident. It has nothing to do with, oh, I want to just have a six pack and, you know, have really strict habits around my food. Like, that's no one's goal. It's about how you feel. So if you're not working on that stuff as well and actually taking a second to say that out loud and recognize, hold on, my goal is to feel confident. My goal isn't to have this shredded, I'm about to do a bodybuilding comp physique. It's to feel good and confident and proud of myself. Then, okay, if that's your goal, then we need to do more than just your fitness and your nutrition. We need to create that self-awareness. We need to have a really good routine that we're proud of. We need to do the things we say we're going to do. We need to journal and reflect, because I think you're unable to recognize patterns because our lives are so busy. That's something that I really struggled with. I've been so busy this year, getting caught up on the day-to-day, the grind, whatever it is. And when I was flying back home from Bali on my flight, I read back my journal from the past 6 months and I was like, wow, I've got some serious work to do, because there's so many patterns here that I'm just letting slip by. And I'm like, oh, this happened, and I'm just allowing it. But because I'm so busy and caught up, I keep, forgiving, forgetting, just moving on, moving forward, new day, move forward. Instead of looking back and being like, okay, this is something I need to work on. I need to fix this. But I never would have stopped and recognized that if I hadn't kind of documented it and gave myself the room to reflect on a day-to-day. Because now I can read back and go, wow, okay, I'm not happy with that pattern. I need to make a change.
Do you know any ways we can pull ourselves out of an autopilot series of patterns in our lives that are controlling us without us realizing it? Is there any ways we can extract the lessons out of what we're going through without it taking so long to figure out what it's teaching us?
No, I think it takes time. And I think you do need to do the work, and you need to be able to reflect. And if it's a priority for you to live a fulfilling and happy life where you're at the end of it and you're proud of who you are and you're sure of who you are, then you do need to be able to look back and do this work and understand why it is you are that way. And I think if you're going to avoid that, it's because you're scared of what you might find out, because it is very confronting. But I'm still on my journey. I'm nowhere near there yet, but it's been the most fulfilling thing, because I am able to stop and recognize, like, hey, why am I reacting this way? What's the real trigger for that? What's the real reason I care so much about looking a certain way? That's hard questions to really sit down with. And I struggled with that for a really long time. And being honest about that is also really hard, because, I think as women as well, we are very hard on ourselves, and then we'll go to the gym and see other women who look incredible, and we're comparing ourselves now when they've done so much hard work and they're probably over there comparing themselves to someone else as well. So I think there's this sense of like unity that we need to build, because we're all on this journey of just trying to figure it out. You never know what anyone else is going through. And I also believe so wholeheartedly, no matter where you are in life, you can learn something from absolutely everybody. And I've kind of moved into the past few years of my life with that real open mind. And I find a lot of peace and confidence in uplifting other people and learning from them, as opposed to sitting there and comparing myself and being like, I wish I looked like that. Go and tell her she looks amazing, because she's worked hard for it. Don't sit there and compare yourself and judge and be like, oh, she's so lucky, because she's not. None of us are. We've all worked hard to get to where we are today, and we've all been through hardships. So to make that quick judgment, I think is just an injustice to yourself.
Totally agree. I find that automatically, right, like we're constantly trying to get to this destination, right, this imaginary place in our head where it's almost like we've created this like idyllic future where when I get there, it's like obviously this ties in with the if-then happiness paradox. But it's like I feel like we're constantly creating these goals and ideas in our head, sometimes even subconsciously, that like it's the reason we can't be happy and content right now.
Yeah.
How do you help people focus on who they're becoming and why that's more important than the tangible changes to their body?
Yeah.
But how do you get them to center and orient their focus on the way that they feel and the person they're becoming and the strength that they're building when they're on that journey?
Yeah. I'm really big on detaching ourselves from the outcome, because I think if you have this goal of looking a certain way or having this certain career path or whatever you're trying to achieve, if you're only going to be happy when you land there, then you're going to miss out on this amazing journey that you're about to embark on. And I think the day-to-day is where the magic and the confidence happens as well. So if I can spend today eating whole foods, catching up with friends, doing something outside of my comfort zone, having this conversation, I can be very present and enjoy this day, and that's a success for me. But if I'm just thinking like, oh no, I want to get this dream body and I want to be on having conversations with this person and my career should be there and I need that promotion, then I'm missing out on what's happening right now. Like I'm in an amazing opportunity right now. And if I'm so focused on what I want, this big goal future for me, instead of enjoying and being present in the moment, you really do miss out on what's right in front of you. And it's the same with your fitness and nutrition. So if you're so attached to like wanting to have this perfect booty and a six pack in 12 weeks time, instead of going, okay, what can I do today to make that happen? I can get to the gym. I can get some PBs. I can ask my coach for form feedback. I can hit my nutrition. I can go and see friends and feel good in myself and go and give someone a compliment. Then that is so rewarding, and people are missing out on those feelings and that confidence in the day-to-day because they're so hyper-focused on what they want to be like in a year's time.
My great uncle gave me one of the most powerful quotes I've ever heard, and he said to me, wherever you are, be there.
Yeah, simple as that.
And it's an incredibly difficult thing to do when we've constantly tied our happiness to progression and we've constantly tied our sense of self to moving forward and improvement. On one hand, it's serving us in an incredible way. On the other hand, we're fixating on only feeling good in ourselves because we're on this journey of growth.
Yeah.
And that ties into the food thing, right? Like when we have a food that isn't as healthy, we categorize it as, you know, we start torturing ourselves because we feel like we've pulled this handbrake on our growth and, you know, who are we without this progression and this, you know, we're meant to be the people in self-improvement. Like, and I think it's a difficult dance to navigate.
Yeah, it is hard. And I think like when you sit down with yourself and you're real with yourself about what your real end goal is it to be free of that? To be free of those thoughts of that, having the brownie and feeling really guilty. Because for me, my goal wasn't like, I want to be strict like this with my food for the rest of my life. My goal was like, I need to get this out of my head. Like it's ruining me. That was my goal. And so to be in a place to get to where I am now, where I am free with my food. And yes, I still have bad days and whatever it is, like that's normal. That's human nature. But ultimately, that's my goal. It was never about like the physique or the perfect routine or the perfect diet. It was being free of my mind and how hard I am on myself when I do slip up, whatever that means.
This quote I love says, your body hears everything your mind says. And I think we feel the physical effects. We have the diseases and we have the ill health effects because of the torture that we have on ourselves, and our body keeps the scoreboard, right? Like, I don't know if you've heard that book. We can't escape the work.
No.
It's constantly presenting itself to us. It's just whether we want to turn around and face it. Like, we're going to feel it one way or another, right? Like, if we avoid it, we're not avoiding it. We have to face it because we feel the low energy. We feel the tiredness, the lack of purpose, the average career, average relationships. We feel that. And it's like, I think what happens is when people say like, we're avoiding, you know, you're avoiding the work. Okay, yes, you're avoiding doing the work, but it's not, you can't escape it.
No.
You can't run away from your truth.
No. The food noise and all those sorts of things are just a distraction for what's really going on. Like no one's going to have food noise or feel guilt around having a brownie if they're super happy and confident in who they are. you're lacking that confidence, you're lacking that self-worth, that's a result. The result is food noise, and that's your distraction now. You're avoiding it. You're avoiding this inner work with ugly thoughts about food and how you should look and how you should be. And it looks different for everyone. People might get stressed and they might get angry, they might get emotional, whatever it is. But food noise is just one of those things because you're avoiding that internal work and that self-worth piece.
What are some of the highest return on investment habits for our health and fitness?
Wow. I would say investing into a coach or a mentor, like learning from someone else that's done something that you want to achieve. I think making an investment like that is, I kind of don't like how it's a choice that we have. I feel like it's like the rules that society have made is like, let's go to school, let's go to uni, let's go to that. And it's like making an investment into your own education and your own self-worth and personal development is kind of like the obscure route instead of it being the normal thing to do. So I think one of the, if not the best thing I've ever done is to invest into my own education. I think I learnt a lot studying nutrition at university, and I think I learned a lot from school, but I learnt the most from recognizing what I needed as an individual and investing into that, whether it was a mentor or whether it was travel and experience. That has been the best thing, and I think it has allowed me to be free and more sustainable with my health and fitness as well.
I think just because you do something that's in the minority, it's often seems like it's deviating from what we should be doing or is beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Like it's almost should be like a prerequisite that we have this focus on empowering ourselves. And that obviously everyone has different values, but investing into coaching is somehow seen as like potentially for a lot of people it's a mindset thing, right? Like it feels like a burden, like, oh, I have to spend this money to like learn. I mean, I have my own thoughts about the education system. I think it's very, very poor, and I think it's like we learn no skills in primary school. We don't even learn to cook properly. Even in high school, no one's learning about emotions. There's so many things that are old school that just need revamping and a way more holistic approach to life that needs to be taught. So I think
agree.
So when people come into the adult world, right, and they're investing in these things, it's like they probably shouldn't have to invest in them because a lot of these things should have been taught right from throughout their high school period. And this is what the government should be investing in because we're going to have happier, more fulfilled people who love their careers. It's a happier world. We're progressing, innovating. But then again.
But that stuff's with the system. So we can't have that. And I think I read a book and there was a story in there about this school in India where he walked into a classroom of like young students and they were all sat there super silent, super quiet. And they were like, what are you doing? He's like, well, what was the first thing you learned how to do when you went to school? It's like ABC, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, some maths. And he was teaching them how to breathe. And I think that is the most beautiful thing and one of the most grounding things that I've done over the past year or two is leaning into my meditation and my breath work because people think woo-woo, whatever, but I think your breath is the one thing that you get to take with you for your entire life. Your environment's going to change, your friends are going to change, your family's going to change, but your breath is the one thing that stays with you and it's the one thing that allows you to regulate what's going on. So no, it's not going to change the circumstances that happen in your life. It's not going to change whether, you spill your coffee on your shirt this morning or not. But being able to take that deep breath and regulate how you're going to respond and react to that, it does give you the power to do that, no matter how big or small the situation is. If you're able to look at a horrible circumstance that's happened in your life and be able to take a moment to breathe and regulate yourself and respond in a way that you're proud of, you have control over that. And if you're not leveraging that, if you're choosing to ignore that and just act out of spite or anger or emotion, when you have a moment to really be proud of who you are and how you're responding and showing up in the world, why would you not take that opportunity? And it pains me that we're not taught more about that from a young age as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would argue that breath work does have a huge influence over our circumstances because it changes our biochemistry, right? And it changes our perceptions, right? We start to think differently because our mood is different. And then because we have a different perception, we start to make different decisions, and then that influences the actions that we take.
Yeah.
And then our life starts to have this butterfly effect that stems back to the breath work that we did. And I think that's where a lot of these habits that people have anchored into their life are so pivotal, because they act as like the butterfly effect for the day.
Yeah.
What would be some of those habits that you think people are overlooking? The simple, free habits that people can access on a day-to-day basis that, like I said, a high leverage return on investment.
Yeah. I think a huge one is your morning routine and waking up every single morning without your phone and getting outside and being in nature, having that time to yourself to sit, to think, to reflect, and have nothing else distracting you. How you start your day is so important. It's going to reflect how you show up for the rest of the day. If you're starting it with scrolling on social media, comparing yourself to other people straight away, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So I think the biggest thing you can do for yourself is dialing in a routine that makes you proud and makes you show up. Like, it's a fresh start every single day. And getting up, doing some sort of meditation if that's your thing, breath work if that's your thing. If not, just get outside, be in nature, be in silence, be with yourself and your thoughts to start your day in a way that is calm, it's present, it's free. And then eat something that's going to nourish your body. Don't ignore that. Don't suppress. Don't think that fasting is going to be what's going to make you feel good and show up with energy and conviction in your work that day. Actually look after yourself and listen to what your body needs. These are the small little things where you say, okay, where does that self-worth come in? Like, how do I become someone I'm proud of? It's by doing those little things every single day that has made me the person I am today.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions around food for people?
I think there's just so much noise out there that I couldn't even fathom where to begin.
Well, let's start with, let's go through the day, right? Let's start, for example, take me through breakfast and how the average person may be misunderstanding how they can nourish their body in a healthy way that isn't, depriving themselves and, instead of having 2 Red Bulls and a meat pie or something like that. Like, how can people understand? And I know people have an individual, I'm not asking for specific foods.
Yeah.
But just like generally, what are some of the
misconceptions? I think a lot of people will avoid eating in order to conserve their calories for later. That's one that I notice a lot. Like, if they think, oh, it's the weekend, I might be going out tonight, so I'm not going to eat early. Or if I don't eat breakfast, that means I can have something else later. Instead of just listening to what your body is asking for at that time. Because if you restrict yourself early on in the day, or if you restrict yourself throughout the week, it's going to cause you to blow out later on the weekends. And then people wonder why that cycle keeps continuing. It's because you're holding yourself back. But when you actually lean into what your body is asking for and listening to yourself and being able to define real hunger versus emotional eating versus cravings versus whatever it might be, when you lean into when you're actually hungry and you listen to your body and you eat something then and you have the thing and you just honor that, that stops you from overdoing it later on. And that allows you to just get on with your day instead of like going through your entire morning at work thinking about lunch, waiting, craving, like reactive, don't have the energy, can't fully focus. That's one thing that I see a lot of people do is, restricting when you just blow out later.
What about highly processed foods? Like, I know the average person has a lot of like cereals and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And people have a lot of processed foods. So like, what would be your opinion around how to start your day with something real?
Yeah, well, I always just say less ingredients, as simple as that. So things without an ingredients list, you look at a bag of spinach, it's just spinach. If you're going to have a granola, if you look at that ingredients list, there's probably about 50 items lists on there that you can't even pronounce. And items like that are designed to keep you wanting more. Like, if you think of the last time you ate a box of shapes, and I say a box of shapes, it's because you can't stop at 3 or 4 shapes. You keep going. Because of that, the products, they're designed in chemical labs, which is bizarre. Like, you think about the beginning of time when people were put on this earth, we're just eating fruits from the gardens and stuff. And now it's made in chemical labs with all these different things to make sure that the shelf life is there and you can, whatever it is. So I think my biggest tip would be to always, always, always start your day with real whole foods with less ingredients, because that's going to make you feel full and satisfied and give you the energy to show up in your day as well without that guilt, without feeling like you need to go back and keep having more.
I think there is a lot of noise around certain diets, and I think people are confused, right? Like you're hearing go extreme one way or the other, don't eat meat, only eat meat. And I think people get like very overwhelmed with the noise. So I think it's important to focus on simple principles.
Yeah, bringing it back to basics, like literally just your carbs, proteins, fats, fiber, making sure your plate is full. It has a source of protein, real protein. It has some color on there, so some fruit or veg, and it has some carbs in there too. And I think it's really hard to navigate that because you walk into a shopping centre, Coles, Woolworths, whatever it is, and 80% of the building is aisles full of processed food. And then there's like that 20% corner of fruit and veg and some meats. And it's so easy to just go up and down the aisles and grab things when that's what we're calling for. So I think a small little tip is when you enter a shopping centre is spend more time in that 20% section, get the majority of your foods there, and then get whatever sources. And I'm not saying like don't have any processed foods, but I am saying like be conscious of how much you're getting from the aisles.
It's easy, just stay on the outside perimeter.
Yeah.
And you'll be in a pretty good position.
Yeah. Go to the farmers markets. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is a lot of noise, but I think because it's hard to know what the average person consumes. So like with your experience of coaching people so far, like what are some of the, like, do people come in with like, is it the lack of education or is it more the willpower of like, I sort of know what's healthy, but I just can't stop myself from eating?
Yeah, it's a combination, because I also think that a lot of things have been demonized, like carbs or fats or whatever. Like whatever your trajectory you've been on in your life, everyone has their own, like, it's external influence of someone being like, oh, fats aren't good for you. And then that's stuck to your mind and now you never eat avocado or whatever it is. So everyone's different in that sense, but that's why I just like to bring things back to basics, and I don't cut out any food groups because they're all important for different reasons. And that's the biggest thing that grinds my gears about diet culture and social media and stuff is people that create these restrictive diet trends that cause you to label foods as bad. So like I haven't eaten bread for a year because I think carbs are bad. It's like, no, you're allowed to eat whatever you want within reason, within your unique needs. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with, is just thinking that certain things are bad when they're not.
What about people who are like, have such a diet of processed foods, right? And they're trying to transition to eating more like healthier foods, right? There's almost sometimes a withdrawal process from sugar, right? Like their brain is so addicted to sugar. Yeah. Like how would you take someone through that? Like they're constantly running on these highs.
Yeah. I think it's probably it definitely is a little bit of a detox process in that sense. But almost everyone I work with, within like a week or so of just focusing on whole foods, the energy actually comes. That's where you go, whoa, like I don't need to nap during the day. I actually feel good. I feel energized. I don't feel bloated. And like they're the quick wins that allow people to like go, okay, I need to keep going with this. And it happens pretty quickly.
I think focusing on the feeling, like you said, like less brain fog, feeling more alive, more energized. I had this guest on the other day and spoke about like if you close your eyes and we're thinking like, how do I want to feel? And like, what are some of the tools that I can use to get there? Take nutrition, for example. I think like we've spoken before, we fixate so hard on the outcome and we're like, okay, what's the best way to do this? Like, okay, I've got to hit my macros, got to hit these protein bars that have like 50 ingredients on them, instead of being like, okay, how can I find a balance of this, right? Like one protein bar is not going to have a huge adverse effect. But if you have 4 in a day and you don't eat any whole foods, it's going to have an effect. Yeah. And I think people don't know how to balance the nuance within themselves because they want to, our brain wants to categorize black and white, good and bad. I know for me, like I feel like this 80-20 concept is pretty good. Yeah. But what happens is sometimes when, like you said, when you go the 20, then we're labeling it bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it's like, well, then how can I even enjoy this thing if in the back of my mind I've categorized it as bad? Like, it soothes me for like 5 minutes, but then I feel guilty. So it's like, well, is that really the 20? Like, it's, I don't know. The 80-20 concept is good because I agree with.
It makes sense, like from a zoomed out lens, but I think I think something I've noticed on social media a lot in the past few years is this idea, or obviously a calorie deficit is a calorie deficit. Like, it works. If you're eating less, like, it's going to work, you will lose the weight. But again, if we're bringing it back to that feeling, if you're just focusing on like calories and macros, yes, you might lose the weight, but you're not going to feel good.
I know.
So it is hard to balance that. And that's why I like to eat a whole foods diet and encourage it with all of my clients and build out meal plans around that, because it will give them this idea and that sense and that feeling of what it is like to eat real foods and support your goals. You're combining the both. And it's like that feeling is, in my opinion, is the best in the world, and it makes me feel unstoppable and proud of myself and good and energized. So I think once you get a taste of that, it allows you to go, oh, okay, I'm satisfied, I'm full, and I'm also reaching my goals. And I think if that's your, in terms of 80-20 for me, if that's your 80, eating like that, your 20 of like having dinners out or enjoying yourself or grabbing a protein bar every now and then, that's the 20. It's not like a extreme, like,
Yeah, that's what I think. If we can frame the like 80 and 20 as like, one's obviously going to be more nourishing, like take that instead of like good and bad. But then there's also that line of like, we also need to be also real as well with ourselves and not like sell ourselves a lie that, it's got 50 ingredient list, and then we're constantly just being like, oh, it has good macros, this is my 20. I think people probably think they're going 80-20 and it's probably like 50-50.
Yeah.
And they're not happy with that. I think obviously this is an individual case by case example, but I just think that's where the mindset is so underrated with food, but also the education aspect of being able to understand like what I think, because we're brainwashed in social media, as well by like mainstream education as well around this stuff.
Yeah.
And I find it so hypocritical with people because they would have something that they demonize as like, let's say an avocado, like, oh, too much fat. And then they'll put like Heinz tomato sauce on like a couple of, I don't know, like let's say some eggs or something, or something that they don't think's bad. And I'm like, I just find it's just fascinating.
Yeah. That's why it's like the calorie deficit thing and the it's so important to lose fat if that's what your goal is, but it's also important to be nourishing yourself with real foods and making yourself feel good. So that's where I struggle with that argument as well, because it's like, okay, if your goal is to lose fat, then obviously we need to be choosing lower calorie options, and sometimes healthy foods are calorie dense, but they're the nourishing things that are going to support your hormones, your feelings and your immune and everything. So it's like you need to have a balance of 80-20
I know,
in that sense as well.
That's why it's hard because this is such, you can't come up with a generalizable rule when it's such a case. That's where like
it depends on people's goals,
and social media is so difficult with that because you're almost looking for this blanket rule, and like what happens is we're constantly exposed to belief systems that contradict our current objectives, and because we might not have that trust in ourselves, we're constantly second guessing ourselves because we're being over flooded with different perspectives.
Exactly.
And it's so unstable when we're on that journey. Exactly. That's where the coach aspect's important.
I was going to say, I feel like that's where that piece comes in. And I think that's where I think you're being an authentic person in this industry is really important as well, because you can practice what you preach and practice what works for you. But if you're going to work with someone and they've got specific goals or things that they want to achieve, then you need to be able to align and put your perspective and what your body needs aside for them on their path and their journey and what's realistically going to work for them. If there's someone that really struggles with food noise or really struggles with cravings or 80-20 or balancing, or has, things that they need to incorporate in their life in order for this routine to feel sustainable and good for them, then you need to be able to work with them on that. because these things don't just happen overnight. If I'm going to take someone from processed foods to all whole foods overnight, that's going to be very hard for them to switch and make that step. So it is a journey, it's a process, and I think that's why I had a coach myself that helped me get out of my under eating habits and not fueling myself correctly, and just having that accountability and having someone guide me and tell me like, this is okay, it's okay, we'll take our time, is the thing that got me out of my rut with it. So I think it's so powerful and important if you're able to kind of be real with yourself and be like, okay, this food noise, I can keep telling myself it's normal, or I can say, hey, no, I don't want to spend the rest of my life like this, and I'm going to make a change and invest into something that's going to help me create that change.
And that's why consistency is like the key, but it's not like a sexy sell, right? Like, yeah, it's like, how can you sell consistency when you can sell, 8-week, 12-week challenges that give you
much more than
the dream body?
Yeah.
I find that interesting because, like, from one aspect, I'm like, okay, like, I understand, like, the marketing around it. I think it's like, do you, from a women's perspective, like, let's say, because I feel like I see a lot of 8 and 12-week challenges for women, right? What do they like? Because I don't know the insides of like all these coaching frameworks, but I'm really interested in like, when they come out of that, like, are these changes that they're experiencing? Because you see all these transformation pictures, right?
Yeah.
But like, are they able to change themselves at a deep level enough that they can have this for a long period of time and feel these effects? Or is it sort of like a renovation project and the foundations are still from a place of fear and they've just positively redirected the same fear? Like, I want an insight in that women's side of things.
Yeah, I guess I can't really speak on behalf of what other coaches do and what their 12-week, 8-week challenges look like. But for me, I completely agree in what you're saying and the perspective you're coming from, in that I've never posted a transformation photo of one of my clients. That's something that I'll never do. And I don't market my coaching in that way either, because I think it is so much more than that. It is an internal journey that these women need to go on in order to actually receive those results. And I think an 8-week, 12-week period is absolutely not enough for someone to see like real change in who they are, because consistency, it takes time and it's not a sexy sell. So people don't use that in their marketing. But every single person that I'll work with, and it was the same for myself, I was very aware that this is my fitness journey is forever. It doesn't stop until I'm like 80 in a wheelchair, 90 maybe.
Exactly.
It's never going to end. So I will never speak to someone new and be like, okay, like, we're going to do this after 12 weeks or whatever it is, and you're going to have this body and you're going to be sweet and then you can leave and you'll be fine. Because I am more focused on the approach of creating these sustainable, healthy habits and reaching a place of confidence within, so that they can go out on their own and continue with these habits and have the knowledge and the know-how to do so on their own. Or if they still need that accountability and support, of course, they can continue on. But I'm never going to sell someone on the idea of like a 12-week transformation or an 8-week transformation where that's it, you're going to be sweet after this.
Because obviously I follow a lot of coaches, and obviously their marketing is transformation photos. But I find it interesting because I'd be very curious to see how sustainable the changes are, because it's one thing to change a physical body, but like, how many people look good but hate themselves and torture themselves and they don't like who they are.
Yeah.
So I find that, you can easily become a better person on that journey and develop the skills. That's like we said, it's the whole point. You're on the journey for a reason. It's not about the destination.
Yeah.
But I feel like for some reason it's just reinforcing this narrative of it's about the way you look, not the way you feel.
Yeah.
How can you take a photo of your confidence, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you might look more vibrant, but it's like, how can you sell something like that? So I understand it from a pragmatic marketing perspective, but individually people are witnessing the same thing. Oh, look at this person. I want to be like that. Yeah. Reinforcing the same thing in their mind, like, oh, I don't look good enough, instead of, well, where does this voice come from and how can I sustainably approach my health and fitness? So I'm doing it from a place of love and understanding, and I find it very interesting. I think that's the Western model of media that we're in.
Yeah.
But I think I sort of see it as like, I have no idea what those women who are going through those coaching systems, what it looks like from a up close perspective. Obviously, that's why I resonate with your coaching style because it's more holistic and it's way more focused on developing the individual self. But I wonder how this will play out in society as well, because with social media and health and fitness.
Yeah. And I think it's incredible, like having these 8-week or 12-week challenges. It gives women the opportunity to like have the confidence to have that structure and routine, and it gets them into the gym or whatever it is. So I think they're a great tool for people. But I think if you're wanting like a lasting transformation, or you want to actually improve the way you feel about yourself and you want to build that confidence, I strongly believe you need a lot more than just an 8-week challenge or a guide. You need to be doing that internal work, and that's also why I include coaching calls every week with all my clients, where it's a safe space for us to come forward with these issues and these topics that we're struggling with, so we can come up with strategies and ways to move forward and progress with it. So it's like, if you've had a bad week and you've fallen off, that's not a reason for you to just stop and give up. I can't do it. That's a reason for you to show up to these calls and bring your struggles and make a game plan moving into the new week, so that you are stacking wins and you are building change and creating new habits into your life that are focused around your self-worth, not just here's your meal plan, here's your workout plan.
But I do see the other perspective, right, where like people are so fixated on that path of I need to look this way. They go into a coaching program, and then I think when they're on that journey, they start to realize how much those limiting beliefs and that static in the back of their in the background of their mind is holding them back. And I think that's where the coaching would work on that, and that's where it'd be beneficial. So I think it's like you will get them in the door for a different reason than what they leave with, right? They come in for the intention of looking a different way, but then they realize that, you know, that's built upon old belief systems that they don't want to have anymore.
Yeah.
And so while they'll change the way they look, they're also changing why they're doing it in the first place. So I see both perspectives, but it is interesting because it's almost reinforcing it's about the way you look.
Yeah. Well, I think before I actually like work with anyone, I will sit down and ask them what their goals are, put that look aside, put that nutrition, meal plan, accountability piece aside. What are you actually here for? Like, how do you want to feel? What kind of person do you want to be? That's something that I'm like, let's make this a focal point before you even start. Like, are you aware of that? Creating that self-awareness, because it allows them to think and be like, why am I trying to improve myself? Like, it's an investment into becoming a better version of you at the end of the day. So why is that important to you? Are you unhappy with how you currently feel in yourself? Is that a part of it? Getting a bit deeper into that side of things before even starting any fitness, health, wellness thing is so powerful, because it starts to create that self-awareness before you begin. And then as the journey goes on, you unfold and you realize more and more as you go. And it's just a beautiful thing, I think.
Yeah. No, awesome. Was there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up conversation? Anything you feel like we haven't explored? I mean, I know there's always things,
but I feel good.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I thought that was very insightful to get into the conversation around food and nutrition and the self-awareness piece. I think it's super, super fascinating. And I have a lot of respect for the way you go about it on social media. I think it's very refreshing, as I said, and focusing on the mindset for women as well. Totally. I think it's underrated in our society. So obviously you're doing incredible work there. So props to you for that. And thanks for coming on and sharing more of your story. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the episode. I hope you got a ton of value out of our guest today. Now, if you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to click the follow button on Spotify, and also click the 3 dots and click rate show. Makes a massive difference in helping grow the show and bring on even bigger guests. And also, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It does make a massive difference. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.